No matter where you are in your scientific career, I highly recommend that if you're not already, start using a citation manager. One of these reference management systems, something like Zotero or Mendeley or EndNote or ReadCube papers, they let you store and organize all of the papers that you read and or that you think you might read, that you think you might want to cite, that you think maybe someday I'm going to think back and be like, oh, I came across something and I want to search it. Go ahead and add it to your library. These are some of the most helpful things that I have ever come across, ever known as a scientist. So do it. Go ahead and download one. I will show you how Zotero works, but there are other versions. Zotero and Mendeley are both free. There's ReadCube Papers, which is a subscription basis, and then EndNote, which is a one-time purchase. All these have in common features, things like they have web versions as well as desktop versions, so you can access things offline. They also have integrations with various word processors so that you can integrate bibliographies and in-text citations in whatever format you want while you're writing. And so I'll show you how you can add articles to your library, how you can make bibliographies, make in-text citations in whatever style you want, change them on the go, all of this great stuff, as well as some other kind of like tips and tricks for when you're reading papers. So let's dive in. As I said, I have switched to, or I said I'm using Zotero. I would actually switch to it fairly recently. I was using Mendeley. The reason why I switched to Zotero, well, it's what most of my students use. It integrates with Google Docs. I got access to a group library of articles, so you can have like group libraries that you share, and there's an iPad app. So all of those things were pluses for me. So I went ahead and did the switch, and it turned out that it was really easy to do so because basically, when you're in Zotero, if you just go to File, Import, it's going to allow you to import directly from your online Mendeley library. So that was super duper helpful for me. And yes, awesome. Okay. One of the things that all of these have in common, though, or at least I think they all have in common, is the ability to organize your papers. This is super duper critical. There are so many times where I have papers in folders on my computer and I'm like, I want this to be in this category and this category, but I don't want to have like copy and paste the file into two different folders and then have twice the storage used. Thankfully, in these reference management software, all you have to do is you can just drag the article into whatever categories you want, and it will be in those multiple categories. You can also easily search all of these and get the information. So you can have ones with PDFs or without PDFs. Sometimes it might depend on what you have access to, but with all of them, even the ones without PDFs, they're going to have all of the information that you need in order to make the bibliography. Super duper helpful. Okay, let's show you how you add these papers, how you can then use them when you're writing. As an example, I'll just use the paper I wrote in grad school. So I was studying this protein called argonaut and its role in RNA interference or RNAi. You can learn much more about that in my other posts and videos. But for now, it's just an example. And so let me show you how I could add it to my library. Okay, the easiest way to add papers to your library, or at least the simplest for me, because I'm typically coming across these in a web format, is just through a Chrome extension, a browser extension. All you have to do is basically install the Zotero connector. And you can do that through the Zotero site, through the Google Chrome library. It's easy to find. Now, when you're on a paper, you're going to see a symbol in your toolbar. You might need to pin the extension to your toolbar in order to see it. Now, sometimes this is going to come up looking like a Z, and sometimes it's going to come up looking like a paper, and that depends on how much access Zotero has to this. So Zotero is able to have like full access to the site and get the PDF. And so what I'm going to do is I just click on this piece of paper, and now I tell it where I want to save it. I'm going to save it to my grad school folder. I just press enter, and voila, it shows up in my library. And it also shows up in my web library, though it might take a minute for it to sync over. You can see that I can see it here as well with all the publication information. And so, awesome. Okay, how else could I add it? There are different ways that I could add it. One way is to just drag the PDF into my library, either the library, the web version or the desktop version. All that you have to do is find the PDF of the article. Maybe someone emailed you this, and you go and you just drag it into where you want it. You'll see that it will actually import it. It will find all of the information about it. And so right now it's just showing as a PDF, but you'll see in a minute that it should default to, it's going to find the information about it. It's searching for it, it's searching the PDF. It'll find all the information, and then it should look the same as this other entry, basically. There we go. You can see that it's basically done this, but now we have this duplicate entry. And so there are ways that you can deal with duplicate entries that I'm not going to go into here, but there's like this duplicate items. Just go and check that out. Okay, so that's another way I could add it. Another way that I could add it if I wanted to was to like use a DOI. So if you go into Zotero and you click on this, basically you want to, this plus sign, new item. Here you can manually add things, but if you go to the plus with the actual like wand, here you can enter the DOI, you can enter the PubMed ID, all of these different codes, and it'll look it up for you. So those are all different ways that you can add an entry, and then you just have the good old school version where you do it manually. And as we saw when we were looking at this, so here I would go and I would edit the entry, but I'm not going to do that right now. The other option we saw before was basically to import. So just go File, Import. You can import from a BibTeX file or a RIS or something like this. You might see this when you're on a paper and you have like a citation. It says like, do you want to download the citation? You could download the citation rather than the PDF and then import that. So lots of ways that you can import things, and then you could also export things into those various formats. Let me get back to Zotero. You can file. I could then export this into various formats so that I could import them into other software. Now let me just show you how you can use it in Google Docs in order to make citations on the fly. It's super duper helpful to use a reference manager when you are writing and wanting to cite things, because it will it'll live track things and live edit things. So if you add a paper between what you had labeled as 2 and 3, then 3 will become 4 and it won't mess everything up. You can also easily change the different formats so that you're in ACS style or you're in AMA style or whatever. So when you insert a reference and bibliography in Google Docs, basically you first have to choose a style, and then you can change it later. But it's going to ask you to choose a style when you go and you click on this Zotero button, or you basically click Zotero here. It'll ask you to choose a style. In this case, I selected the American Chemical Society. Now it'll ask you to search for the paper that you want. Well, first you have to tell it to insert a citation. So you can either go to Zotero, edit citation. What I like to do is just this shortcut, this Control-Command-C. So all I have to do is press Control-Command-C and a window pops up. Now, if you're not signed in, it might ask you to sign in. But if you are, then you'll have this window pop up, and now I just search for what I want. So I'll search B. Bell. And it'll take a second, and then it'll find my article. I'll go ahead and cite this. I could also have searched a journal. I could search a year. I could search the context. I could search the title, all these various things. And now the Google Docs will incorporate that in the citation style I chose. So because I'm in the American Chemical Society, the in-text citations are going to be the superscripts. And so that's why I see a 1. Okay, now basically, if I wanted to insert a bibliography, then I could just go to, or first, let me just insert another citation just so that you see an example. So let me go and I will do that Control-Command-C. And I want to look, and I want to find an article with casein kinase, this casein kinase in the name. So maybe I want to choose this one. Okay, great. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so now you see it does number 2. But maybe decide I don't want to cite my paper before this one. I want to cite my paper after this one. So let me just remove the citation I made before. And now I want to go ahead and after I cite this one, I want to cite myself. So Command Control C. Yeah, I pressed the wrong thing. Command Control C. Zotero pops up. I'll just search for what I want. I'll find that paper again. And voila. Now, the other paper reverted to a 1 and mine reverted to a 2. You can also edit. If you click on the citation, you can edit with Zotero. This is going to allow you to change what you had cited. You can add multiple papers and it'll cite them all at once. So it'll be do like the 1 to 3 or whatever. But that's not what I want to do here. So I'm not going to change anything. I do want to insert a bibliography. And so I already inserted the bibliography before. But basically all you have to do is go to Zotero and add edit bibliography, and it'll add that. If you want to like share a permanent version or something, what you can do is you have to actually like save a copy of it and then unlink the citations. Okay, so that was Zotero. No matter what tool you use, I also recommend that you additionally keep a spreadsheet to keep track of key information from each paper. So these tools typically have features that allow you to like take notes on the papers. So you can do like new notes for the paper. I'm not going to go into that here. What I like to do is just to keep a spreadsheet where I have the key information from each of these. And so I'll share the template for this. But basically, I have a template I use for research papers. And like a sheet tab for research papers where I have like the title, author, year, gist, the experimental system, techniques, main findings, and then how is it relevant to me? How might I use it? Depending on whether you really think you're going to use it a lot or not very much, you might have more or less information for each article, but you'll have one article per row and you have as much detail as you want. Having everything in one place is going to make it easy for you to search and see why you kept it. I also like putting a hyperlink so you can find it on the go. That's for a research paper. When you're reading a research paper and it has different figures, you can make one of these tabs for each paper, and then for each of those research papers, each of the figures, you want to put like what panel it was, take a screenshot, where is it discussed in the paper, what did they test, why did they test it, how did they test it, what literally does it show? So it shows a curve of the bacterial growth via UV, via OD 600 trace over time, and it shows that the line goes up until 1 hour and then down or whatever. But what does that mean? What's the significance to their paper, and why do you care? How is it applicable to you? For a review paper, you're going to want to take different types of notes. So title, author, year, gist, subtopics, paraphrase facts or pieces of information, relevance to you, how you found the review article. So maybe someone recommended it to you. Maybe you found it in one of those research papers, a hyperlink, and any miscellaneous notes. So that is one sort of resource in addition to the reference managers. I have some other resources as well. Things about finding papers, different types of papers, tracking down references, and using InterLibrary Loan. So I will share a document that has all these live links that you can check out for yourselves. And remember, I don't care what tool you use, but I really hope that you do use one of these reference management systems. Get started early on. It helps make your life so much easier.